Vladimir Ilyanov, later known as Lenin, was born into a world of privilege and intellectual curiosity in the 1870s Russia. His family, though considered high-ranking, faced hardship. His older brother, Alexander, was executed for participating in an assassination plot against Tsar Alexander III. This event profoundly impacted young Lenin, sowing the seeds of dissent against the autocratic regime. Lenin excelled academically, particularly in literature and law. He immersed himself in the works of radical thinkers like Karl Marx, whose ideas on class struggle and revolution resonated deeply with him. During his university years, Lenin actively engaged in student movements critical of the Tsarist government. This activism led to his arrest and subsequent exile to Siberia. Exile, however, failed to extinguish Lenin's revolutionary spirit. Instead, it provided him with the time and space to further develop his Marxist ideologies. He became convinced that Russia's emancipation from Tsarist rule could only be achieved through a disciplined, vanguard party capable of leading the proletariat to revolution. In 1900, Lenin, released from exile, found himself at a crossroads. Russia was on the brink of change. Widespread discontent with the Tsarist regime was reaching fever pitch. He co-founded the newspaper Iskra, or The Spark, to disseminate revolutionary propaganda among Russia's burgeoning working class. Lenin's charisma and powerful rhetoric earned him a loyal following. He became a prominent figure in the Russian Social Democratic Labour Party, or RSDLP. However, the party was divided on the best course of action to overthrow the Tsar. The 1905 revolution, triggered by Russia's disastrous defeat in the Russo-Japanese War, proved to be a turning point. Lenin, witnessing the potential of a mass uprising, solidified his belief in the necessity of a violent revolution. He argued that peaceful protests were futile against the Tsar's iron fist. Only a well-organized, armed proletariat could dismantle the existing power structure. Forced into exile once more after the failed 1905 revolution, Lenin sought refuge in Western Europe. He continued to write prolifically, honing his theories on revolution and party organization. His most influential work, What Is to Be Done, outlined his vision for a highly centralized, disciplined party of professional revolutionaries. This vanguard party, he argued, would guide the proletariat towards establishing a socialist state. Lenin's time in exile wasn't solely dedicated to theoretical pursuits. He tirelessly worked to unite the fractured RSDLP, eventually splitting the party into Bolsheviks, meaning majority, and Mensheviks, meaning minority. The Bolsheviks, under Lenin's leadership, advocated for a more radical approach, emphasizing the need for an immediate socialist revolution. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 presented Lenin with an opportunity to capitalize on Russia's growing instability. He denounced the war as an imperialist struggle and called for the proletariat of all nations to rise up against their capitalist oppressors. By 1917, Russia was teetering on the edge of collapse. The war had taken a devastating toll on the nation's economy and morale. Tsar Nicholas II, increasingly out of touch with the plight of his people, faced widespread calls for his abdication. In February 1917, the February Revolution swept through Russia, forcing the Tsar's abdication and establishing a provisional government. Lenin, sensing an opportunity, returned to Russia from exile. He immediately began rallying support for the Bolsheviks, promising peace, land and bread to a war-weary and starving population. Under Lenin's leadership, the Bolsheviks, with the support of workers and soldiers, staged a coup d'état in October 1917, overthrowing the provisional government and seizing control of Petrograd, formerly St. Petersburg. The October Revolution, as it came to be known, marked the beginning of communist rule in Russia and sent shockwaves throughout the world. From Tsarist autocracy to Soviet state. The birth of a nation. The Bolsheviks, now in power, faced the daunting task of transforming Russia from a Tsarist autocracy into a socialist state. Lenin, as the leader of the newly formed Soviet government, wasted no time in implementing his radical agenda. One of his first acts was to issue the Decree on Peace, calling for an immediate end to Russia's involvement in World War I. This move, while popular among the war-weary populace, came at a price. Russia was forced to cede vast territories to Germany under the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Lenin also implemented sweeping economic reforms, nationalizing industries, banks and land. He believed that centralizing control of the means of production under state control was essential for achieving economic equality and establishing a classless society. Lenin's iron grip. Steering a nation through turmoil. Lenin's vision for a socialist utopia faced significant challenges. The country was plunged into a bloody civil war from 1918 to 1922. The Bolsheviks emerged victorious through ruthless determination and military strategy. However, the war left the country in ruins, with millions dead and the economy in shambles. To consolidate power, Lenin established the Cheka, a secret police force notorious for its brutality. He justified these measures as necessary to protect the revolution. The Cheka's reign of terror marked the beginning of political repression in Soviet Russia. A legacy etched in time. Lenin's enduring impact. Lenin's health, however, began to deteriorate in the early 1920s. He suffered a series of strokes that left him increasingly incapacitated. His declining health sparked a power struggle within the Bolshevik Party to succeed him. Despite his failing health, Lenin remained a formidable figure, revered by his followers and feared by his opponents. He had led a revolution that toppled centuries-old Tsarist rule and transformed Russia into a socialist state. His ideas on revolution, party organization, and the role of the state would have a profound impact on the 20th century, inspiring communist movements and revolutions around the globe. Lenin's legacy, however, is a complex and contested one. His admirers view him as a visionary leader who liberated the Russian people from oppression and paved the way for a more just and equitable society. His detractors argue that his brutal methods, including the Red Terror and the suppression of dissent, laid the foundation for the totalitarian regime that would emerge under Stalin. The shadow of succession, Lenin and Stalin. As Lenin's health worsened, the question of his successor loomed over the Bolshevik Party. Among the contenders, Joseph Stalin, a cunning and ruthless Bolshevik, emerged as a key player. Stalin had risen through the ranks during the revolution, gaining control of the party apparatus and cultivating a loyal following. Lenin, though initially supportive of Stalin, grew increasingly wary of his ambition and ruthlessness. In his final years, Lenin penned a document known as Lenin's Testament, in which he criticized Stalin's brutality and called for his removal as General Secretary. However, Stalin, through shrewd political maneuvering, managed to suppress Lenin's testament and consolidate his power after Lenin's death. Lenin's death and the future of Russia. Lenin died on January 21, 1924, at the age of 53. His death plunged the Soviet Union into mourning. Millions paid their respects as his body lay in state in Moscow's Red Square. Lenin's death marked the end of an era. The revolutionary leader who guided Russia through upheaval was gone. Stalin seized control, transforming the Soviet Union into a totalitarian state. Millions perished under his reign of terror. Lenin's revolution paved the way for a totalitarian regime. His legacy continues to be debated to this day.